Looking for the wrong song. Looking for the wrong song. All right. Good afternoon and welcome to Sports Talk right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. Today is January 17th, and I have not been with you guys for such a long time, but I am happy to be back. Sickness, and then we went to Christmas. So, things were a little shaky, but nothing will be shaky in sports for this 2026. So much has happened in the sporting arena since we last saw each other. Yeah, and so I'll be excited to share with you, for the next hour. Bear with me as I share with you for the next hour and what's going on in the world of sports in terms of, I know the Reggae Boys, they have their game against Grenada tomorrow. Lots of movements happening in the English Premier League. Manchester United had a new coach. Chelsea has a new coach. So I tell you. But and then of course we would have crowned in the end of 2025, we would have crowned the Da Costa Cup and Manning Cup champions as well, and also crowned Olivia Shield champions just last week. So have a little catching up to do as far as that is concerned. The Jamaica Premier League was back as well. English Premier League is on. A lot of things happening as it relates to FIFA and what is happening in the, our neighbors up north and that person, and what does that really mean for FIFA? What does that really mean in terms of ticket sales? Ticket sales has been plummeting. Persons in the East, they're very hesitant to be flying to the United States because of what is happening. And will FIFA step in? Will we see some changes? Will more matches be moved to Canada and Mexico? I mean, a lot of investments would have already gone in as it relates to the stadiums and refurbishing of stadiums. So it's going to be an interesting time. It's going to be an interesting time today on Sports Talk. I mean, you guys know me already. I'm not in for the days. But also, Rudolph Speed, interim coach of the Jamaica Football Federation, he also held a press conference last week as well. So guys, I got a lot to talk about. Shakori Williams, she has decided that she's going to go to the enhanced game. Is that really a loss for Jamaica track and field? To me, it's not. I don't know. She wasn't even important. That's important. So, okay, she decided to go to enhanced games. There are other persons that decide to go to it. Were they that important that it will be a significant thing for track and field? Absolutely not. So we got the talk to talk about, and so stick and stay with me as we do that. But first, let's start off. Let's try to do a schoolboy football roundup first, and then let's see if I can do the first break, and then we'll come back and we'll continue with some football. But let's talk about last year now, starting with the Manning Cup, or rather starting with the Walker Cup. Right. Walker Cup champions were last year's Manning Cup finalists, St. Catherine High. They walked away with the 2025 Walker Cup. They played, I think, the better of their season was played after they were knocked out of the Manning Cup. We really saw this St. Catherine High team and Coach Anthony Patrick, along with his coaching staff, we really see them coming to the fore. Right. We saw them coming to the fore at a big point, right? A big point, we saw them coming to the fore. And so congratulations to Sir Anthony Patrick and his team for doing so well in winning the Walker Cup. So I mean, there are lots of conversation about Walker Cup being a consolation prize, because it's a losers cup. You have to lose to play the Walker Cup. But I'm sure for the schools, the money that they gain from the Walker Cup plus the exposure or continued playtime for the footballers, very, very important. Cool? Right. Then on that day, we also had a double. So we had the Walker Cup starting, then the Manning Cup. Manning Cup, and it was really a David and Goliath type situation. Excelsior with Kimarley Scott and team coach Broderick. And then you had Jamaica College, who has the players, lots of players. And then coach Davian Ferguson and coach Stampy. And the way Excelsior outplayed Jamaica College on that day to be two love winners and retain and winning the Manning Cup after how many years of winning the Manning Cup was just amazing. Amazing. And then they got a chance to go on to win the Olivia Shield. So that was just brilliant, pure brilliance. And then we head to now the DaCosta Cup. States, their story of roof being blown off by by Melissa rather, and all of that, and them getting the opportunity to go on and win the DaCosta Cup is over a very, very good Glenmuir team. That Glenmuir team packed Orain Shaw and all those footballers, Orain Watson rather, and all of those great footballers that they have at Glenmuir. To see a team like step up and win in penalties. And when you get to penalties, when a game gets to penalties, it's really, really, really anybody's game at that point. And they were able to hold their own and to be able to win. So we want to say congratulations to all those teams. Of course, the ISA Super Cup or Champions Cup is still going to be played. I think the Champions Cup is going to be the top four teams from the Manning Cup and the top four teams from the DaCosta Cup. I'm happy that the Champions Cup will still be played because it means that our youngsters will still have a chance to play additional football, coming out of having not played football for the weeks after Melissa to football restarting. So it would be good to see, them getting a chance to play more football, and it means more opportunities for them across the board for the scouts to see them more. Because I know scouts were at the all scholastic team games, well, all Manning Cup, all the Costa Cup, and then all scholastic Manning Cup, all scholastic the Costa Cup teams. Games recently. So I know that some of our players at the end of the school year will be able to make that trek, whether they're going to join a Jamaica Premier League team or they will get a chance to play college football, which is going to be so important for their growth and development. So, that becomes very, 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 very important. Right. And then, moving from that to the English Premier League, and Chelsea's boss saying, well, it's time for me to go. I mean, in what we've received under no real duress, he just decided that, this is not what he wants to do. And he doesn't want to coach Chelsea anymore. And Chelsea just had to find a new manager. Right. And then Man United, they fired their manager. And so they had their first game today, actually this morning, with the new manager. And trust me, I mean, I woke up specifically to watch the game because you guys know I'm a Chelsea fan. So, I'm not really watching Manchester Derby because not really watching that. However, I just wanted to see what it would mean for them, Manchester United. And trust me, the way how those guys played, it was like their paychecks were on the line today, this morning. this morning, I felt like their paychecks were on the line. Like the boss tell them, say, this, you guys gonna do something or you're gonna just leave. So it was great to see them back in good form. And against, I guess I'd say a Manchester City team that I don't think was very motivated this morning. Didn't play like that. Gave up easy goals, and then there were calls that were questionable again. Can we stress the fact that VAR is just has not been VARing? And yes, as a Chelsea fan, I'm saying that because if you look at the statistics, you'd realize that the team, or one of the teams that would have benefited from the VAR's missed calls, has been Chelsea. Crazy, but I mean, they have to get that VAR situation. The VAR situation has to, at some point, come under some control, some scrutiny. I don't know, but it needs to happen because it cannot continue like this. Like it. I don't know if they need to, if the cameras are not set the way that they ought to be set. You guys can give me your feedback and let me know what you think. But that's just my opinion. So this morning, Manchester United, they defeated Manchester City. And of course, Chelsea, they were 2-0 winners over Brentford. And let me just give you the rest of the results as it relates to the English Premier League this morning. I'm going to give you those results, and then I'm going to give you a up-to-date point standings. Of course, we know that Arsenal, I don't want to say they're soaring, but yeah, that's what's going on right now. Arsenal are Arsenaling, and with Manchester City dropping points again this morning, that puts Arsenal even in a better position than they were before. All right, so let's talk about now the results from this morning. Of course, I said Manchester United, they defeated Manchester City 2-0. Chelsea defeated Brentford 2-0. Leeds United, they were 1-0 winners over Fulham. Liverpool and Burnley, they played to a 1-1 draw. Sunderland defeated Crystal Palace 2-1. West Ham, they defeated Tottenham Spurs 2-1. And of course, it's now 0-0 between Nottingham Forest and Arsenal. And that's after 43 minutes gone in that game. Tomorrow's games, we'll see Wolves taking on Newcastle, and Aston Villa, they will take on Brentford. And then, of course, we'll go to the table standings now. Arsenal still on top of the table with the current score in their match. Now it means that they are 7 points clear at the top. Manchester City, they're currently in second on 43 points. Aston Villa, they're in third, 43 points, but have the opportunity tomorrow to go ahead of Manchester City. Liverpool, they're fourth in 36 points. Manchester United, with the win this morning over Manchester City, they're currently fifth with 35 points, and right behind them is Chelsea on 34 points, Brentford in seventh on 33, same Sunderland in eighth on 33. Newcastle, they too, if they win tomorrow, have the opportunity to go at 35 points, but they're currently in 10th on 31 points. Brighton, they're in 11th on 29 points. Everton, 12, 29 points. Right. Everton, 12, 29 points. Crystal Palace, they're in 13th on 28 points. Tottenham, 14 on 27 points. Bournemouth, 15th on 26 points. Leeds United, they're in 16th on 25 points. Nottingham Forest, they're in 17th on 22 points. And then to the bottom three, West Ham, they're in 18th on 17 points. So they're now, I'd say, 7 points 7 points behind in terms of relegation. So the next team will be 22 points with Tottenham. Then Burnley, they're 19th on 14 points, and then Wolves are in 20th on 7 points. And really and truly, Wolves, they've only won one game out of 21 games played. And it's really, really will be interesting to see if Wolves and Burnley at least get to stay up for next season. We've come to our first break right here on Sports Talk and the Family Station. Stay with me. We're going to go for our first break. And when we come back, we're still with football as we jump into some Jamaica Premier League. We'll be right back.
It's 1:16 here inside the studios of Love, and we get back to Kathya after these messages.
Arise, mighty warrior. Kingston Keswick Convention 2026 under the theme Kingdom People Empowered for Expansion at the Boulevard Baptist Church from Sunday, January 18 to Sunday, January 25 with main speaker Reverend Dr. DeVere Nugent, pastor of the East Queen Street Baptist Church. Listen live on Love 101 FM on Sunday, January 18, Thursday, January 22, and Sunday, January 25 from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. and on Saturday, January 24 for men's gathering from 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. Join Love 101 FM's social media platforms for the full nightly services from 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. That's the Kingston Keswick Convention 2026, Sunday, January 18 to Sunday, January 25, live on Love 101 FM, the family station. It's time to enter.
Where are the campus heights? Students are strapped up in a price.
When disaster strikes, the risk of exploitation and gender-based violence sharply increases, making prevention and protection inseparable from emergency response. On the next Campus Connection, we will be focusing on post-Hurricane Melissa human trafficking. Join us as representative from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, along with St. Catherine High School students, Ms. Kazire White, Students Council President, and Mr. Nathaniel Anderson, Vice President of the Heritage Club, discuss the increased risks faced by Jamaican children after Hurricane Melissa. And don't miss our creative block guest, Miss Ashwani Johnson, writer and translator. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign from the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, January 20 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101, the family station.
On the next mailbox, we'll be exploring the theme Men Leading in Faith, Family, and Finances. Leading in these areas involve a holistic approach to biblical manhood, characterized by sacrificial love, stewardship, and purposeful servant-hearted guidance. It is said that a man's primary responsibility is to cultivate his own relationship with God, which in turn fuels his ability to lead his home and manage resources responsibly. You are invited to join the conversation with our special guests, Reverend Nigel Martin and Elder John Rooms, as they share on this relevant topic in a 21st century setting. That's Wednesday, January 21 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station, Love 101, the mailbox, Monday.
Which part of the man of God, when you hear the trumpet or the...
We now return you to Lady Kathya Davis as she speaks on Sports Talk. Hey, Kathya, I wanted to know, Arsenal are my team, you know. I hope they don't snatch defeat out of the jaws of victory this year.
Well, Pastor Courtney, I hope your team can get it done because, you know, you guys are very good, as you said, at snatching defeat out of the jaws of victory. But we'll see how the season progresses, especially when you start playing European football again, how you will manage, how Coach Arteta will manage his players. But interesting days ahead for Arsenal. All right, so welcome back to Sports Talk right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. And we are now going to be talking about the Jamaica Premier League. Yeah, Jamaica Premier League. What's really going on, Kathya? I'm about to tell you. Thanks for asking. All right, so first we're going to kick it off by talking about the games to come. Of course, with Jamaica playing Trinidad Grenada tomorrow in its friendly. I don't know, Trinidad is on my mind. Jamaica playing Grenada tomorrow. in their friendly, it means that 2 games will be postponed based on the players that are going to be playing or representing Jamaica in tomorrow's international friendly. So the Treasure Beach and Cavalier game has been postponed, as well as the Mount Pleasant and Harborview. And you will hear shortly why those games have been postponed, because the team that is going to play Grenada tomorrow is a local based squad. And so most of the players were drawn from Cavalier and Mount Pleasant. I mean, not surprising. It's not surprising. Those teams have been playing well. Yeah. All right. So let's look on the fixtures that are about to come up tomorrow. Racing United, they will play Dunby Holding tomorrow at 3 p.m. at the Ferdinand Park. Then at Jarrett Park, Montego Bay United will host Portmore United. And that is a 3 o'clock kickoff. And then the next game that has a 3 o'clock kickoff will see Spanish Town Police taking on Chapelton Maroons, and that will happen at the Royal Lakes Complex. Monday Night Football comes up at the Anthony Spalding Sports Complex. The first game in the doubleheader kicks off at 5 o'clock. We'll see Malines United playing Tivoli Gardens, and then in the 7:30 game, which will be quite interesting, we'll see Waterhouse with their new coach taking on Arnett Gardens, who will be playing at home. And of course, Arnett Gardens having coming off a defeat from Chapelton Maroons on Thursday night. So it will be interesting to see how Coach Philip Williams will round his team up. I know Arnett went into a lot of transfers, or they would have had a lot of transfers in this January window so far. Some of those players were not yet featured in the game on Thursday. So it will be very interesting to see how it is that Coach Philip Williams will incorporate those players in Arnett's coming game, and so that they don't slip too far behind, and so they'll be able to stay at least get to the playoffs to challenge for the rest of the season. Talking about challenge, let's get to see what the point table look like for the Jamaica Premier League. All right, Montego Bay United, they're currently at the top of the standings with 32 points, and they've played 16 games so far. Racing United, they're in second. I don't know. I think, somebody asked me about Racing recently, and I said, listen, Coach Anthony Patrick is really, really putting in the work in Racing, and you can see the drastic improvement in that team. And so I'm looking to see Racing become even a stronger team as the season goes by. Yeah, Portmore United, they're in third on 27 points, followed by Mount Pleasant. They're in fourth on 24 points. However, Mount Pleasant now has only played 13 games, which means that at the end of match day, I don't remember what match day it is tomorrow, but at the end of this week's games, Mount Pleasant will have 4 games in hand, which will be very, very interesting. I mean, obviously we have the in the week games, so it would be interesting to see, how they will manage with those games to come. All right, Cavalier, they're in fifth on 23 points, and they've played 15 games. So as at the end of the round, they will have 2 games in hand. Tivoli Gardens, they're in sixth on 22 points. Arnett Gardens, they're in seventh on 19 points, but still, having the chance because they only have played 14 games. Tomorrow, I think, will make 15, and then they'll still have some games in hand. So at least 3 games in hand. So they have to make the most of those games. Chapelton Maroons coming up. They've played 15 games so far and have garnered 19 points. Waterhouse played 16 games so far, 17 points. Malines in 11th, 15 games, 16 points. Treasure Beach, 14 games. So they still have some games in hand, and they're on 15 points. Harborview, struggling at second to last on the table. They've played 15 games and only gained 14 points. And they do have coach Vassal Reynolds over there. We'll see what his impact will be, especially now with schoolboy football season now completed. Let's see, if he's able to throw his focus now 100% on Harborview. And then Spanish Town Police still finding it tough going in the Jamaica Premier League season. They have played 15 games, only been able to garner 8 points with a goal difference of -30. Yeah, that's a lot of goals scored against you, Spanish Town Police. But desperate times calls for desperate measures, and when teams are trying to stay atop, or even when they are trying to qualify for playoffs, I'm sure as the season progresses, it will get very, 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 very interesting in the Jamaica Premier League. And of course, stay tuned here to Sports Talk, where I keep you updated as best as I can on what's happening in the Jamaica Premier League. All right, we're now going to go to what's going on for the Jamaica Football Federation. Of course, our senior Reggae Boys team. Well, as I said last week, I would have attended the press conference held at the Jamaica Football Federation headquarters with Coach Rudolph Speed. Very interesting. I wanted to give a feedback on that. I would say the press conference was very, very interesting. He came with a presentation and, was very businesslike about how he went about, telling us the some of the players that they were looking at, but not only that, but just a general listing of, I think it was 50 or some amount of players that they would have had. Obviously, when it gets down to February to get to the qualifiers in March, they will have to trim that team down. And if we do get to the World Cup, the team has to be trimmed again. So it will be interesting days. He spoke about players being in the top 20 leagues, top 20 football leagues across the world. And I mean, I wonder if anybody will be able to tell me what are the top 20 leagues that are across the world. I mean, I decided to look it up because I just wanted to see where everybody's chance, or what's the chance of this player or that player getting in. But that was like one of the requirements that he had, which I thought it was interesting that, he was like, this is what we're looking for, and whoever meets this description, or meets this requirement or meets these criteria, then we look for XYZ. And I thought it was very, very interesting to see him come and do a presentation like that. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Well, definitely not in my time, from a head coach. I mean, yes, he's the interim head coach, but from a head coach, it was very interesting. It was a difference. It came with a difference. And of course, I think answered a lot of questions. So, yeah. But before we dive into that and to the game tomorrow, we're going to go for a second break right here on Sports Talk. We will be right back.
In 2025, murders fell below 700 for the first time since 1994, over 31 years ago. This represents more than a 40% reduction year over year, with over 470 lives spared when compared with 2024. Compared to the 2009 peak of 1,683 murders, this represents a 60% decline, or more than 1,000 lives saved. I extend sincere appreciation to all partners across the national security architecture. Your collective efforts have changed the trajectory of our nation, placing us firmly on the path to long-term, sustainable crime reduction.
This achievement belongs to all Jamaicans. Together, let us protect this hard-won peace and press forward to what we can and must become: a safer and more peaceful Jamaica.
A message from the Ministry of National Security and Peace.
It's now 1:30 here inside the studios of Love 101. I'm Pastor Gordon Morrison. Today is the 17th of January 2026. It's good to be alive.
I've got love in my
It's another time to move inside alive. This Make Me Move Monday with me, Sarah and the Chirpy One. Get the cerebral workout with a brain testing exercise at 1:45. Get those mental muscles moving. Hungry for divine intervention? At 2 o'clock, break your fast with Prayer Blast. Join us for Body Talk at 2:15 for another informative program about your health. Then at 3 p.m., we bring you Soul Talk, your safe space to share your truth with Pastor Philip Johnson. At 4:30, stick and stay for more fun coming your way as Auntie Vashti wraps things up with the Small People Show. All this and more will come alive 1 to 5. This Make Me Move Monday with me, Sarah and the Chirpy One. Only on the family station, Love 101.
everybody feeling alive. Just the spirit feeling alive. Get your healing and come alive. Where are the campus heights? Students are strap up in a price.
When disaster strikes, the risk of exploitation and gender-based violence sharply increases, making prevention and protection inseparable from emergency response. On the next Campus Connection, we will be focusing on post-Hurricane Melissa human trafficking. Join us as representative from the Child Protection and Family Services Agency, along with St. Catherine High School students, Ms. Kazare White, Students' Council President, and Mr. Nathaniel Anderson, Vice President of the Heritage Club, discuss the increased risks faced by Jamaican children after Hurricane Melissa. And don't miss our creative block guest, Miss Ashwani Johnson, writer and translator. Campus Connection is proudly brought to you by Live Good Anti-Violence Campaign from the Ministry of National Security and Peace. Tune in on Tuesday, January 20 at 5:30 p.m. on Love 101, the family station.
We are carry Lord from campus. Come on, let me walk one now. I walk one now.
We now return you to Lady Kathya Davis on Sports Talk. Informative, educational, and indeed concise. Lady Kath.
All right, welcome back to Sports Talk right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. And before we went to the break, I was talking about the press conference that actually happened on January 7th. The time is flying, people. Because I can't believe that the press conference was 2 weeks ago, and I'm here thinking that was last week. Anyways. What am I telling you? But let's talk about first before I get into the squad, because I want this. I know some of this information wasn't public, so I want to share it with you, my listeners. Team selection policies for the national team, and this was a part of the presentation that was done by Coach Rudolph Speed. And it says the players who have a contract with a club in the top 20 leagues in the world. If you're not playing at a club in the top 20 league in the world, then you must be playing in the top league in that particular country that you are. If you have played for Jamaica before, or the grandfather policy, so obviously that's the heritage policy. And then players must be fit. Players must be playing regular minutes at their club. Players must exhibit a high standard of performance. And then, of course, other conditions apply. And of course, I just want to tell you, share with you quickly, top 5 leagues in the world. Of course, there is the elite Big Five, as they call them, which is the Premier League that is in England, the Liga, which is Spain, Serie A, which is Italy, Bundesliga, which is Germany, and League One, which is France. And then, of course, you have the Championship, which is in England, the Primeira Liga, which is in Portugal. You have the Belgian Pro League. You have the Brasileiro, which is in Brazil, Liga Professional, which is in Argentina. And then, of course, you have the MLS, you have Turkish Super League, You have the J1 League that's in Japan. You have the Croatia First Division. You have the Danish Super League. You have the Scottish Premiership. And of course, we have a few players who are playing in the Scottish Premiership. All right. So just to give you an understanding as to what especially this coaching staff or interim coach and his staff is looking for. All right, let's now talk about the game coming up tomorrow. And of course, I said it is a local based squad, or mostly local based squad. And they will be playing Grenada, right? So let's go to the goalkeepers: Amal Knight, Tafari Chambers, and Daniel Russell. The defenders, we see Damian Lowe, who is currently without a club. And I'm sure keeping him in the setup and keeping him fit is very important, because when you look at all the other criteria, some of them he's not making because he's not currently representing a club. So that would be an interesting to see how they will move forward with that. You have Ronaldo Webster. So we're now at the defenders. Ronaldo Webster, Christopher Ainsworth, Kyle Ming, Stephen Young, Fitzroy Cummings, Giovanni Leng, and Nico Brown. Midfielders: Deshaun Anglin, Shamar Watson, Nikhil Ellis, Kevon Lambert, Dwight Merrick, Adrian Reed Jr., and forwards: Corey Burke, Warner Brown, Natalia Fuller, Dwayne Atkinson, Deshane Bedford, Jordan Fletcher, and Daniel Green. And of course, from the sounds of that, you can hear there a number of Mount Pleasant, a number of Cavalier players, a few Montego Bay United players as well. And so that is the reason why those particular games, Cavalier and Mount Pleasant games, would have had to be postponed, because most of those teams' starting 11 is actually a part of the squad that will travel or is traveling to Grenada. Of course, the game will kick off at, let me tell you quickly what time. The game will kick off at 4 p.m. Well, 5 p.m. Grenada time, 4 p.m. Jamaica time. And of course, the last time that these two teams met was in October 2023. And that was in the CONCACAF Nations League, where Jamaica won 4-1. This game with Grenada is a part of the Jamaica's setup in, giving the local players an opportunity to get, obviously now in the playoff squad, but it's also an opportunity for them to get some sort of international exposure. Yes, it is against a Caribbean team, but them being able to, knowing how it is to fly, to represent, and then have to come back and play is a very important step in the local players' career. And so we're looking forward to that. I mean, if we're to look at some of the players, let me just see if I can find those who are making their debut. Okay, first, Nikhil Ellis. He is 21, and this is his first Jamaica senior men's national team. He played schoolboy football for St. Catherine High School, and he is currently playing for Racing. You see this? Racing in the Jamaica Premier League. Also, first call up for Dwight Merrick. Dwight is 22 years old, and he plays for Montego Bay United in the Premier League. And of course, I said this is first senior men's call up. He obviously, prior to being at Montego Bay, he was at Dumbeholding, and before that, he started out at Mount Pleasant. All right. Then we go now. I'm just trying to tell you, Nicalia Fuller. Well, he made his debut last year, 2025, against Trinidad and Tobago. He currently plays for Tivoli Gardens in the Jamaica Premier League. Okay, let me tell you. Let me see now. Okay. So there here we are. Those were just the two, and then of course the person would have had one cap coming in. Everybody else, I think, they're strong enough players. I mean, they've been representing Jamaica whether on the youth level or on the senior level. So it would be good to see how it is that they are able to adjust moving forward. Some of them, they have not played in the national setup in a little while. So some players have been recalled to the national setup. So it will be also interesting to see how they will go. I think Adrian Reed Jr. is one of those players, and it will be very interesting to see how they will go about cementing their spot, or at least keeping in the minds of the coaches and the selection committee that they are worthy to be to continue, at least I would say, an investment in, or continue to become important, or I not important but relevant to the national setup. Because the truth is that a big part of how we are going to progress as a nation with our football is building out our youth programs, building out local football, so that we are able to not, yes, we can, when the players go to the overseas, we be able to bring them in, but this current high dependency on those who play international football, especially those who wouldn't have represented Jamaica before, and this is the first time they've been called up, is when we are in a sticky situation, or we find ourselves using the grandfather program. Then you don't want to go to that all the time. You want that not to be the go-to, but the options to be that you have built out such a program that local players who get a chance to go overseas, they're able to come back and represent the national team. Speaking about changes, or some changes that would have happened, sure, I saw some news this morning about Coach Andrew Peart. Yes, he's now the director of football, and of course that post replaces the role of technical director, which was previously held by Wendell Downsell. Now, in this new role, Coach Peart, who currently has a CONCACAF A coach license, but he's currently pursuing his pro license, will now have control over the national youth teams up to the under 20 level. Additionally, he will have control over the grassroots program, coaching education within the parishes, will form a part of his mandate in his new role, and he will also remain the head coach of the national under 15 team, which of course we know that under 15 team was very good in copying the CONCACAF League B title in August 2025. So it's good. Coach Andrew Peart being now director of football, and I'm hoping that himself and Coach Speed will, I don't know, I'm hoping, this is my hope, real hope and wish, that with these two local based coaches at the helm of football in Jamaica in terms of coaching, that they both will carve out some plan so that we'll be playing the same type of football, from develop a culture of football from grassroots right up to the senior level. And other countries have done it and they have seen the results, Belgium being the most recent team to do that and see significant results. I don't see why, if we have the coaches that have the level of expertise, why it is that they cannot be, or why it is that we're not able to replicate like other nations. All right, but with that, we go for a final break right here on Sports Talk. When we come back, we're just gonna wrap up things and maybe look ahead to what's up for this year in 2026. We'll be right back right here on Sports Talk.
It's now 1:45 inside Studios of Love 101. You're listening to Sports Talk. Let's take a few messages.
Are you confident that you are the legal owner of your property? Take action to secure your property ownership. Get a registered certificate of title and become the legal owner of your property. To register your property and obtain a certificate of title, you will need to provide a tax registration number (TRN), a valid government issued identification, a survey diagram, documentation to prove ownership, up-to-date property tax certificate, the names, addresses, and occupations of 2 neighbors over the age of 50 who are not family members and can give a declaration on your behalf. Proof that you have been in open, undisturbed, and undisputed possession of the property for 12 years or more. For further information on registering your property and obtaining a certificate of title, contact the National Land Agency at 876-750-5263 or 876-946-5263. Email asknla@nla.gov.jm or message us at WhatsApp at 876-418-5089. The National Land Agency. One agency, one goal to serve you better.
Need to pass your CSEC CAPE exams to get that dream job or to qualify for university? Then Distinction College is the school for you. We have locations in Kingston, Spanish Town, St. Elizabeth, and Ocho Rios. Start day, evening, and Saturday classes this coming term and sit CSEC CAPE exams for January's resit or May, June. Maths, law, science, English. We have the lowest school fees. Register before the end of the month and win an entire term free. Call us at 354-8560.
On the next mailbox, we'll be exploring the theme Men Leading in Faith, Family, and Finances. Leading in these areas involve a holistic approach to biblical manhood, characterized by sacrificial love, stewardship, and purposeful servant-hearted guidance. It is said that a man's primary responsibility is to cultivate his own relationship with God, which in turn fuels his ability to lead his home and manage resources responsibly. You are invited to join the conversation with our special guests, Reverend Nigel Martin and Elder John Rooms, as they share on this relevant topic in a 21st century setting. That's Wednesday, January 21 at 5:30 p.m. on the family station Love 101, the mailbox. Monday.
Which part of the man of God? God, when you hear the trumpet or the
We now return to the final segment of the program, Sports Talk with Kathya Davis.
All right, welcome back to Sports Talk right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. And before we continue, as we look forward to 2026, and of course, want to give you some results from the J3A Fuller Anderson meet happening in Spanish Town. I just want to share something quickly with us, and this is going to be some thoughts from Coach Rudolph Speed ahead of the game tomorrow. So take a listen.
We're joined with the head coach of the Jamaica senior men's national team, Coach Rudolph Speed. Coach, how has preparation been leading into tomorrow's game?
It's gone as good, very well, as good as it could get. I think the players put in a lot of effort. We did some tactical things and it seems to have adapted nicely. And when I'm looking at the players, they're upbeat and just ready to go.
Anthony Modest is someone that we know quite well, having played in Jamaica. He now coaches Grenada. Tell us a little bit about him and, of course, a little bit about Grenada as well.
Well, Grenada is almost like Jamaica.
All right. we'll go back to that video. I'll go back to that video shortly. Right, right. I'm gonna go back to the video, but we still want to hear Coach's Speed thoughts ahead of that game tomorrow. So I am going to be sharing the video again shortly. Right. But in terms of, so I can tell you, just gonna skip to track and field. Just a quick second. Tia Clayton would have won in the women's 60 meters over there at the J3A's Fuller Anderson meet in Spanish Town. She clocked 7.02 seconds, which is a personal best. Finishing second was Jonelle Smith with a personal best rather of 7.06 seconds. On the men's side, Kishane Thompson, he clocked 6.52 seconds. The fastest time for the men's 60 meters. Second was O'Dane McPherson with 6.53 seconds. And Brian Lavelle ran a personal best of 6.54 seconds. And that's, of course, happened at the 60 meters happened at the J3 Fuller Anderson meet, and that's happening at the GC Foster College. And I want to talk a little bit more, with the small time that I have left, about some of the meets being cancelled. Why are they being cancelled? The J3A said that they'll be looking to help some of these meets coming up. And of course, the Gibson relays, hopefully I'll be able to speak to one of the organizers, because I'd love to know, they are moving the format of the Gibson relays to straight finals. It'll be very interesting to see how that will work and how they intend for that to work. But before we do, let's see if we can go back to hearing from Coach Speed. As I said, Jamaica plays Grenada tomorrow, and I just want to share with you his thoughts ahead of the game, before that game tomorrow. So let's see if we can hear that. All right. Let's go again. Okay. All right. So I guess we won't hear Coach Speed's thoughts, unfortunately, ahead of the game. Obviously, he was looking, I can say that he's looking to see local players and how they will fit into the system. I'm looking to see how he will set up, if it would look like a Cavalier setup, or if it would look different. And when I say look like a Cavalier setup, I don't necessarily mean Cavalier players, but I'm just thinking in terms of how Cavalier plays. So that would be interesting to see and to look forward to. Talking about looking forward to, we are in a new year, even though some persons have been saying, Happy New Year. But the biggest thing I think in terms of world sports this year is going to be the FIFA World Cup. And already we can see, even from last year, we're talking about ticket prices skyrocketing. Then we're talking about what effect the US extraditing former Venezuelan president on the possibility, well, not possibility, but alleged drug charges, and what that has meant for persons in the East, persons deciding that they don't want to, they've canceled their tickets. We've seen the tickets for Mexico and Canada kind of increase, so persons are not willing to travel to the US. And of course, I'm not looking to see how FIFA is actually going to react to that. It's interesting days ahead, and of course, we don't want to be, I don't think, right. I don't want it to be in this type of position. I'm sure FIFA is not looking to be in this type of position. Obviously, having had the draw held in the USA, and it was a big gun show, for all of this to be happening now, I we're looking forward to see what FIFA's response is going to be. As I would have said at the top of the show, money has been spent in terms of investment for, stadiums. All of that money has been spent. The ticketing is a part of the revenue. How would that affect the revenue? Will you have to see in terms of changes of team or where teams are played? Will the US be the only team playing in the US? There are a lot of things to think about and moving parts, and it would be interesting to see how FIFA deals with all of this going forward. I mean, it's not like they have a lot of time. This is not 1 year or whatever to the World Cup. This is 100 and odd days left to the World Cup, and this is where you kind of tighten the screws and dot the I's and cross the T's. For something like this to come up at this particular time, I'm sure most of those FIFA executives must be having sleepless nights, seeing how they are going to manage. And it's just unfortunate, just generally. The situation, everything is so unfortunate because sports is being affected, and we know that if there's anything in the world that brings people together, one main factor, sports. And when FIFA World Cup especially is going on, the world almost comes to a still to watch, to be interested in the World Cup. This is something that has billions of views over the world and billions of dollars in revenue. So for something like that could possibly be affected at the level that it could be affected at, it's going to be interesting days ahead. However, before we even get to that, we'll do the playoffs in Guadalajara, Mexico, which I'm hoping to be at, yay. But yes, playoffs coming. Jamaica will be in the playoffs, as we already know. New Macedonia, they have Democratic Republic of Congo. If they get through to those two matches, they will be off to the World Cup. So you want to stick and stay as we try to create some good, produce fantastic content around that. And of course, hoping that I will actually make it to Mexico. We're working towards that team, and looking out. So if there's anybody out there that will like to sponsor Sports Talk going to Mexico in March, you can reach out to our office line, and somebody will definitely direct you to me. Right. Just putting that out there, just in case anybody's listening and would be interested in sponsoring that journey. Just saying. Right. So, of course, we come back next week with another fantastic show. Thank you so much. Thank you so much to my listeners. Big up all my listeners. Big up to those who would have reached out to me. I appreciate it so much. And we are looking to do bigger and better things for Sports.com 2026. So you want to stick and stay as things will, Sports Talk might look a little bit different coming into 2026. I can tell you that from now. If things might look or sound a little bit different, but I'm sure it's just only for the improvement of the show. So we're looking forward to just continue to bring in sports, keeping you updated on sports matters as we continue to talk to the different athletes, different sporting administrators, and giving you all the information as we can with the time that we have. It's been a fantastic time being with you again, and yay, 2026. FIFA World Cup, I guess I'd say biggest thing for 2026 sporting wise. Of course, the Australian Open is currently on. So for those tennis fans, that one ball, that 1 point cup, guys. I don't know, Australian Open is always trying to do something interesting. I found it so entertaining. 1 point matches, but no, that was very entertaining. Of course, Roger Federer being back on the court, doing an exhibition game was also so very interesting. So yeah, that's it for Sports Talk today. Join me every Saturday right here on the family station, Love 101 FM. Do have yourself a fantastic rest of the afternoon, and then I'll hand you back to Pastor Courtney as he closes out for the gospel train. Have a good day, everybody. Bye.
Always interesting and informative listening to Kathya. It's 2 o'clock here inside Love 101 FM. We're going to be continuing.